Good afternoon, dear guests and our viewers. I would like to welcome you all to our regular online pro-business discussion. My name is Aušra Bendikaitė. I'm head of Encore Baltics, HR solution company provides services in all Baltic countries. Today, we will speak about employer brand image and explore why this topic is so relevant and significant in business world. Now, I would like to introduce our dear guests who have agreed to share their experience and insights with all of us. Jan Denys, Director of External Communication and Public Affairs in Randstad Group, Belgium. Jan is also the labor market expert who has written 2 books on the subject and one of the founders of Randstad Employer Brand Research. Judith Franzen, Randstad Global Marketing Director, Program Manager for Randstad Employer Brand Research. Judith has 35 years of experience in human resources, as well as in marketing management, change management, and digital marketing strategy. Nanda Din, Business Development Director at Kantar Data, Insights and consultant who has more than 25 years of experience in working with various international market researches. Natalia Piparienė, Head of Human Resources at Nestle in the Baltics. Natalia has almost 15 years of experience in HR in different industries, such as transport, logistics, retail, and pharma. And Giedrė Teresevičienė, Human Resource Director of Afidea. For almost 10 years, Giedrė works in international healthcare business in Lithuania. Before we will start our online event, I would like to inform our viewers that if you have any questions, you can type it in the special window in the right side of our broadcasting page, and we will answer them in the end of our event. What is employer branding? Why is it important to have strong employer brand? But the most significant to discuss what value it brings to the company who use employer branding as a tool to their companies and image creation. Next slide, please. So it's in very beginning. Next slide, please. Okay. So till we're waiting next slide. So let's speak about employer brand. What is it in general? It is a term referred to describe a company's reputation and popularity from a potential employee's perspective and describes the value company gives to its employees. And this view is formed both logically and emotionally. Employer brand is built up from the combined views and of many different groups and sources. Such sources include former and current employees, candidates, media, competitors, clients, etc. The most significant thing is that employer brand cannot be impacted instantly, and it's a result of long-lasting impression about company based on their behavior. Third slide, please, if it is possible, but we have some online issues. Let's continue to speak without slide about employer brand. Why it is so significant to have it? Employer brand significant because it helps to attract new talents to your organization and retain current employees. Young people especially assumes that a company with a positive corporate brand is great employer. Employer brand influence candidates' impression about company starting from very first interest a candidate shows to work for your company. Moves on to the research candidate does before sending CV to your company. For example, what kind of feedback he or she received from your current employees. And finally, the experience she and he has as an employee in your company. According to Glassdoor 2019 data, about 87% of employees and job seekers are likely to research for company reviews and rating before making a decision to apply for a job in a particular company. Moreover, 75% of active job seekers are likely to apply to a job if employer actively manages its employer brand. This is how perception becomes reality. The way your employees, candidates, clients, competitors see you as a real consequences for your business. I don't know if we have more slides, but let's continue to discuss about employer brand and facts about employer brands influence your success. First, if you have good employer brand, it's easier and cheaper to attract candidates. Candidates are willing to work for your company with a good reputation, even if the salary is lower. Actually, in fact, if over 50% of working people mentioned that they would not work for a company that has a bad reputation, even if that company will provide the biggest salary, comparing with a company with a good reputation. Second, today candidates explore company reputations. They look for reviews about the company both online and offline before submitting CVs. And third, good salary is not longer enough. Corporate values are extremely significant. The most employees are willing to leave the company if its values do not align their own values. How to understand if your company has some issues with employer branding. There are some indicators that you need to attention to your employer brand. And first indicator are related to recruitment process being ineffective. Recruitment takes too long, or recruitment can be too costly. We have a group of indicators related to engagement of your current employees. You may notice the high turnover or start losing your employees to the competitors. However, there are some indicators that do not pose the problem first, but they also show that your employer brands need attention. For example, if your company expands its geographically or services, for example, you will face a need to acquire a new kind of talents. Candidates who values are needed different form and comparing with current target, for example. This would mean rethinking your employer brand. The other thing is getting too many CVs. From the first sight, it can look like a positive thing. So many candidates are willing to work for your company. However, this is a big indicator of fact that candidates cannot find enough information about your company. Therefore, it is hard for them to fully figure out the clear picture of your company. CVs can likely be irrelevant, and processing them will take too much time and energy for your recruitment department. And speaking about employer branding, I would like to mention Randstad Employer Brand Research, which was found in 2000, and now it's over 30 countries have this research, and more than 200,000 respondents around the world. The market research covers more than 80% of global market, and I'm really happy to announce that the next year in Lithuania, we will join this research, becoming 35th country included. And today we have a guest, Jan Denise, who is initiator of Randstad Employer Brand Research. And now I would like to give the floor to Jan Denise.
Well, thank you very much, Nora, and thank you very much for having me here. And it's a great honor, as indeed one of the founders of the Randstad Employer Brand Research in 2000, to be in a country, in a new country, the 35th. It's a great feeling, I can say. And in my short presentation, I will tackle two things. First one is a little bit elaborating and even repeating on the excellent speech of Nora. So if the slide could be presented, because that went a little bit wrong with the former speaker, is there any possibility for a slide, or shall I go on? Okay. Well, let's move on then. First of all, I would like to make very clear what the basic model is of the Randstad Employer Brand Research. In the Randstad Employer Brand Research, we are focusing on two different things. First of all, the global image of a company, which is only a part of the employer brand. I would like to focus that. Yes, you have an employer brand, has two sides, you can say. It has the outside, that's the image. It has the inside, that's the identity. Randstad Employer Brand Research is focusing on the outside, on the image. Erika, if possible, you can click on the next slide. So Randstad Employer Brand Research is on image, global image. Besides this, in the Randstad Employer Brand Research, we are focusing on the drivers of the image. We have a lot of drivers. You have work security, you have salary, you have work life, you have indeed the values, as already mentioned. So every year we measure how important are these drivers. What do people think it's important for them to join a company? And on the other side, we measure the same thing for real companies. So for companies, we know how attractive they are, but we also know why are they attractive. And I think other speakers will elaborate on that. Very important that employer brands have antecedents, behavior of a company, the culture of a company, the communication of the company, social communication, social media, informal, word of mouth. So it's quite a complex thing. So you need to take care of a lot of possible influences of your brand. And indeed, as already mentioned by the former speaker, we have the effects of the employer brand: better recruitment, better retention, better engagement. And if these three things are okay, of course, then that should work out in the value and the added value. And besides this, you also have a more transparent labor market. That's the first thing I would like to stress. What is the real core of the Randstad Employer Brand Research? Second thing, and that's the next slide, is How unique is the Randstad employer brand research? And it is quite unique. And here on this slide, you see four kinds of research, possible research. First of all, you have concerning data, you have big data by big tech or by other mostly made by tech companies. And on the other side, you have data based on panels, on samples. And it's very clear that we are in the panel sample kind of research. That's the first distinction. And then you have research based on the identity of a company and on the image of the company, as already explained. And again, here Randstad is researching the image. So it's external people of the company who give their opinion of the company, whereas the big data can be both. I give an example of Glassdoor. Glassdoor is a company that collects data, opinion data, of the identities of the company. So it's mostly workers and ex-workers of companies who give their expression on the company they're working. And Glassdoor is collecting all this data and is making scores. And so you can go to their website and see how companies are doing in that kind of country. The big data of LinkedIn is based on behavior. So if there is a vacancy of a company on LinkedIn, how many people do react on that vacancy? So it's quite a complex. It's a combination of different indicators, but LinkedIn is a very famous example of big data and important for also image of companies. If we go to the panel side, then I think there are two big streams. First of all, companies who are dealing with identities of company, identity, how do we look ourselves? And the most important study here is the Great Place to Work. I'm not sure if Great Place to Work is active in Lithuania, but they are active in a lot of countries. So it's based on opinions of people who work in the company itself. Yeah. And then there's also an external jury is making also some measurements and stuff. And here we are. Randstad is the only research in the world, dealing with the whole labor market. So everybody, it's already said that 200,000 people are in the sample, are giving their opinion on companies. These 200,000 people, that's everybody between 18 and 65. Whereas our so-called competitor Universum, that's the other big company dealing with employer brand research, they only focus on the top dogs, on the masters, and even a selection of master school leavers. Randstad is dealing with the whole labor markets. We have high skilled people, we have lower skilled people. So for us, the whole labor market is involved. Of course, we can make distinctions between higher skilled and lower skilled, but that's our place in this big employer brand market. So for Lithuania, you are joining a very unique study, and in its field, the only study dealing with the whole labor market. So it's very nice to have you and that you can join the club. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan. So it was very interesting, and I agree that we are joining. We will have really valuable research next year. But since we have guests from Lithuanian companies, I would like to come back to talk a little bit about employer brand. And I would like now to ask our guests Natalia Piparienė and Giedrė Teresevičienė to share their experience. What is your experience in creating an employer brand image? What do you think it might mean for your company? And let's start from you, Natalia.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to join this discussion. It's really great. First of all, what I would like to say about my experience, that first you need to be very patient when you are working on employee brand. And as it is really closely related to culture of the organization, it will take some time. But what is important, to take a good start and to really set a good objective, a goal, to build a good strategy, what we are doing and why we are doing, what we would like to achieve. We really need to have all managers onboarded to deliver the strategy. And we really need to agree all together. So how success will look like for us. So what we would like to see as achievement. And of course, you already mentioned what does it mean for the organization. So first of all, of course, it's for us, I really need to tell you, first of all, what we were saying, that we would like to fix a turnover, which was really, for us, was a bit too high that we expected. And we start to work not only on just employee turnover, but also we start to observe our talents turnover. Employees whom we defined as a high potentials, who has maybe some specific skills, and we would like really to keep them within the organization. Do we really have all the systems and processes online just to maintain this loyalty, let's say like that? And why it's important for us, because it really brings, first of all, lower cost for hiring, even more resources, not to spend a lot of time on recruitment. Of course, as you also mentioned, it is bringing much more and higher motivation and engagement to personnel, to teams and to individuals, and it is better results, because motivated people, engaged people, they deliver more. So this is shortly from my side.
Thank you, Natalia. Giedrė, I would like to ask you to answer the same question. Why do you think employer branding is important for your company, and what is your experience upon it?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Aushra. Hi, everybody. So actually, Afidea, as the largest private healthcare company in Lithuania, competes for scarce resources, which is doctors and nurses. As you know, there is lack of doctors and nurses generally and globally, and also other medical personnel. And the market is small in the country because we're a small country. And many private healthcare institutions offer similar pay and benefits to people. But at the same time, we don't want to compete only on the pay and benefits level. Rather, one of the most important things for us is to be recognized as the best employer in the market. So it doesn't mean that having a strong corporate brand will develop your employer brand just the same way. Employees are human beings who expect your culture to be compelling with their own needs and their own value systems, apart from logo and apart from a strong corporate brand. So we thought we need to our employees to recommend us not only as a good place to work, but also to tell stories about the company and what it's like to work here. We always talk about customer experience, but we need to talk about employee experience, because it is just as important as the customer experience. And just to mention one simple example about employer branding in our company. As a medical company, we portray ourselves as a healthy society. We do sports, promote healthy lifestyle, celebrate health-related days by showing our employees positive attitude towards health. We signal them that, well, in a sense, they will be healthy as well if they work for this company. So finally, live your values, live your company's values, and walk the talk, and be honest about it with your employees. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's long-lasting work to create an employer brand, actually. We will come back about this topic today, but now I would like to continue with more details about employer brand research. And we have Judith Franzen, Program Manager for Randstad Employer Brand Research. And now will tell us, Judith, more about how the research is implemented. So Judith, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you all for this invitation. We are happy that we can share with you what is the Randstad Employer Brand Research. I'd like to go to the next slide, please. Important, and it is said already a few times, we started with this research in 2000 in Belgium, and Jan Denys, my previous speaker, he was part of that. And why did we do it? Because for us it was so important to show also our knowledge about the labor market we have, instead of only placements and jobs and vacancies, but also the insights we have in depth in the markets. So over 21 years now, we have a lot of data, as you can imagine, and we can use that as insights and also make predictions for the future. Since 2012, we are happy that Anchor is an alliance, a partner of us. So in markets where Randstad is not present, we are present in 38 countries. We are the #1 in the HR industry in the world. But in some markets, we are not there. And there, Anchor is a very, very good partner for us to join in that markets, so that we can give our international clients, our global clients, always the right people they need in all the markets. Till today, we work with Anchor and the Randstad Employer Brand Research in 3 countries, but we are happy, and it was already announced earlier in this call, that the 4th country will be Lithuania. So we are very happy that they will be part of the Randstad Employer Brand Research. And why is it also so interesting for you? Because Jan showed it already. It's an objective, independent research, so you cannot pay to join this research. So it's really based on the number of employees a company has in a country. But it is the most representative and inclusive employer brand research in the world. And that makes it also possible that we can compare country insights, but also go in depth in regions. We focus on the general public, the age 18-64, because that is the working population. But we can have, of course, all kinds of breakdowns. Maybe we can go to the next sheet. Here you see the overview of the markets, what was already mentioned, 35 markets now. The dark blue, that are the markets where we conduct this research. And based on that, we cover 80% of the global economy. On the right side, you see all the names alphabetical, so that you can see which countries are included in the study. And of course, we highlighted Lithuania, because they will be our newcomer next year. This year we did more than 190,000 respondents with 6,500 companies we surveyed. So that is really enormous if you do that year on year on year on year. The field work, what will be done by Kantar, and you will hear later Nanda in this webinar, will be done at the beginning of January and February, so that we have fresh new insights and can share that with you, say, around April, May next year. Next slide, please. I like also to show you what we can do with what we call reporting. Next slide, please. We developed an own dashboard because what I said, 21 years research, 190,000 respondents. You can imagine that's a lot of data. And we made our own dashboard where we can dive deeper in markets, but we can also make selections, as you see on this sheet, on age, on function, on generation, on region, on year, so that we really can use and have access to all the data of this research. We have also a possibility to download reports that you can select certain slides and insights in a Google slide format, PowerPoint or PDF, so that all the systems can work with it. Next one, please. Next to say company data, so that we researched the top 150 companies in a country, we also aggregate global reports. And the global reports you can already find on Randstad.com, so feel free to go there and you can download them so that you can see what we have done in 2021. We have one global report where we compare all the markets and countries and regions, but we have, for example, also deep dive reports about the healthcare industry, IT, or customer services. So every year we define several sector reports. Next sheet, please. What is also important, and this is only an example, but in the reporting and in the dashboard, it's also possible, for example, to compare sectors. This is one example, but you can do this per market. And why is this interesting? Because sometimes you don't want to attract people only from your own sector you work in, but maybe from another sector, because you think, oh, IT people I can get better from the automotive industry because there you have a lot of automation or whatever. So it's not always that your own sector is the key, but look also a bit around and see what is interesting for your own company. Next sheet, please. What we also do is every year next to the base questions, we have variable questions. We formulate a few variable questions on a global level, and that means that type of questions we do in every country, but also the local markets have the possibility to add their own questions, because you can imagine that a market in Brazil is different than from Lithuania. So you have also the possibility to tailor-make that in your sense. And this is, for example, where we looked to different markets and regions. Are people intending to switch from a job in the coming 6 months or not? And you can imagine, because of COVID, home working, remote working, people have maybe other interests. So this type of information is also available in this study. Next sheet, please. What we also do is, of course, we have a deep dive of data in markets and in companies, but we also try to see how we can use the information on a global level in press, and also start discussions about work in the world. You all see now the shortage in a lot of sectors. And in this example, you see, for example, on the right top corner, our CEO, Jacques van den Broek. He had an interview with BBC World about this research and what we saw as trends. So over the world, a lot of PR articles are produced. And even in Belgium, since years, Jan and his team are the opening at the news in the morning when we publish this study, because it's really seen as an important study in a lot of countries. Next one, please. What we also do, and that's not the main goal, but it's a side effect, that every year in every country, we look who was the best in class and who was the most attractive employer in this year. And that we celebrate with what we call an award. And you see the statue. The statue is a magnet with 150 puppets on it. And there is always around the globe in every country, we recognize a winner. And on the left top, you see, for example, India, but it's really important that we do this around the world. Next one, please. And this is my last sheet, but also important as a message I like to give to you all. And the previous speakers in the panel discussion mentioned it also. It's not that easy to build the right employer brand. It's an investment, it's learning, it's measurements, it's making choices to see where you can differentiate yourself. It's looking what do we do internally, what does the external audience think, is there a gap, do we have to close it, how do we communicate it, what is the corporate brand, what is the employer brand. So this is, say, a roadmap what maybe can help you to define where you are and where you can make improvements and changes, so that it's really a process around the years. And we hope that the insights of the Randstad Employer Brand Research about your company can help to define this roadmap. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. I believe for Lithuanian business will be interesting, of course, will be interesting to have data about Lithuanian HR market, but also some data from global research. And we will be glad to share it next year. So, but now I would like to get back to our Lithuanian guest for a short discussion. And ladies, as we spoke about employer brand in general, in your companies and your opinion about how it is important to have employer brand, now I would like to ask, how do you measure your employer brand inside the company? Maybe you have some special tools, or do you perform some research on your own? For example, Giedra, can we start from you now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, of course, it's important for us. It's important for us is to see the quality of our hires. The way they get onboarded is very important, because we do the retention surveys, not the surveys, but statistics every single year at the end of the year. And actually, it's not that high. It's higher in the healthcare public sector, of course. It's only 13% in Afidea, Lithuania. But actually, what we found is actually that people were leaving in the first 6 months if they were to leave. So this means that they were not properly on board, and this is something that we are working on, and we are measuring. So the quality of our hires, how we onboard them, so that if they are onboarded right, then they tend to stay. And also employee engagement is the another metric we use to see if people are engaged in our teams, if they are satisfied with all the safety measures, with all the equipment that they have, and everything else. So these are the basic and the most important metrics that we use. But also we have another ones. We don't have expensive softwares. Sometimes it's enough to just measure it on your own, because it's only once per year, so it doesn't take a lot of time. But it's really important to do that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Giedre. And Natalia, the same question for you. Do you measure, and how do you measure if, your employer brand?
Yes, of course, we would like to measure, because in HR we have a lot of intangible things, but we really need to see the progress. So we also name certain things we would like to keep as a benchmark for us in employer brand, as we agreed in the organization that for us employer brand is equal to people in organization. And why, as we already discussed today, because it's important what they feel, what they think about organization, what they talk about organization to families, to friends. So we are keeping a lot of attention on this area, and of course measuring it from engagement, what already was mentioned by Giedre. We also keeping an eye on the results, how employees proud of being part of our organization. Do they recommend us as an employer? We have it in our annual survey as a standard questions every year, and this is important for us to see the trend. And of course, also as Giedre mentioned, we keep an eye on the same parameter, how many employees leaving within 1 year after recruitment. And I'm happy to say that this year it was only 1 employee, and we did some readjustment also on onboarding, on recruitment processes. So this is quite the same thing. And of course, turnover. For sure, it's very important.
Yeah, I agree that the turnover is actually very high indicator for employer branding to measure. Thank you both for your answers. And now I would like to ask we have one more speaker, Nanda, to comment more about technical part of research. And Nanda, may you have your word, please.
Thank you. Can we have the presentation back on, please? So I am Nanda Deen, and I am Project Management Director at Kantar, one of the largest research agencies in the world. And I'm based in the Netherlands, and we have been conducting this survey for the past 6 years for Randstad. And I'm really pleased to be here and explain a bit more about it. So the Randstad Employer Branding Research is a representative study based on the perceptions of the general audience, as Jan Denys already said. So in the study, we ask respondents in all markets how they rate the biggest employers of their country. The survey is independent and conducted by us at Kantar. And each year we interview across the world over 190,000 respondents. If you could go to the next page, please. It's a effectiveness in the largest employers, in the largest sectors. And the largest employers is based on the number of employees a company has. So we only research actual companies where people actually work and not just a financial company. If you could go to the next page, please. So as Judith also already explained, the Randstad Employer Branding Survey covers all continents, and across the 34 markets, we survey over 6,500 companies. And the fieldwork for this study, so the way we interview our respondents, is conducted online, and we are using access panels. So an internet access panel is a group of pre-screened respondents who have expressed a willingness to participate in surveys. We at Kantar have our own access panels in a number of markets, but also we collaborate with what we call panel providers. We ensure that in both our own panels, as well as the panels that we collaborate with, that the respondents are randomly recruited and have gone through a series of quality checks to ensure high quality fieldwork. So we don't just invite anybody. We need to be sure that they are actual people that actually exist and that they are telling us the truth and that they are not bots, for example. or those sort of things. So we have a series of quality checks, and once people are validated and have entered the panel, from there we draw a random sample to ensure that the fieldwork really is objective and not subjective. So for this employer branding survey, respondents are invited to participate and complete the survey via a link, and the survey takes about 16 minutes to complete. The sample of respondents consists of people between 18 and 64 years old, and in each market it is representative on gender. We do have an overrepresentation of 25 to 44 years old to ensure that we really survey the people who are most likely to be part of a working population. But we don't just interview people who currently have work. The sample consists of working people, but also of students, which is our potential workforce, and unemployed people, to really ensure we have a full overview of the potential workforce. And as Judith said, the fieldwork of the survey takes place in January of each year. If you could go to the next page, please. So in each market, we survey the biggest employers in terms of number of employees. And in each survey or in each country, we survey a minimum of 75 companies. In the questionnaire, we show each respondent a maximum of 30 companies, because you cannot ask a respondent to evaluate 75 or even 100 or 150 companies. That would be way too much. So we randomize and we show a max randomly of 30 companies. And for each of these companies, the respondent tells us if they know the company. And then if they know it, we ask the follow-up questions. We ensure that each company is evaluated by at least 100 respondents. But of course, the total number of evaluations per company depends on the awareness of a company, on how well known a company is. The more respondents know the company, the more evaluations that company, of course, gets. Only when the awareness of a company is less than 10%, the sample size will be dropped below the 100. And we say that we can then not really say anything about that company, because with the sample size is too low to really draw conclusions from on a total company level. A sample size of a minimum of 100 respondents is commonly used by Kantar and statistically big enough to interpret the results and determine who will be the most attractive employer. You can go to the next slide, please. So first we ask awareness. Do you know this company? Then for each of the companies a respondent is aware of, we ask the respondents if they would like to work for the company. And that is the question that determines attractiveness. We also ask for each company how the respondent rates that company on a set of drivers. And these 10 drivers are a mix of economic, psychological, and functional drivers. And the 10 drivers each company is evaluated on are the result of a data analysis from previous years, literature research, and comparability throughout the years in the study, and actual developments in the labor markets worldwide. So each year, we determine very carefully which drivers we want to include in the study. And we need to ensure, of course, that we can do some trend analysis. So we never make too many changes, but we do ensure that we keep up with anything actual that is happening in the world around us. If you could go to the next page, please. So this is an overview of the drivers. So it ranges, as I said, from various aspects around financially being healthy, offering long-term job security, fostering a pleasant work atmosphere, a very good reputation, interesting job content. And people answer it on a 5-point scale, ranging from thinking that it's not at all true to feeling that it's totally true. So for each of the companies we asked, do you feel or do you think that this company is financially healthy? So this is about image. It's not about actual knowledge of the company, but it's about the image of the company that the drivers are about, because that is what ultimately employer branding image is based on. Go to the next page, please. Next to the drivers, we've got a set of what we call annual topics. There are fixed topics, such as, did you change a job in the past 6 months, or are you planning to change the job in the next 6 months? And what channels are used when people are searching for a new job? But we also have annual topics, and some of them may stay in for a couple of years. Others are new based on whatever is happening in the world. So these center around the importance of a work-life balance, the attitude change toward work in the past 12 months, actions undertaken to improve work-life balance, fear of job loss, the importance of personal career growth, progression, etc. And these questions are used to see how the workforce is feeling about the world at the moment when it comes to their career. And you can imagine with the current pandemic that these questions are especially interesting and give us great insights in how the workforce is perceiving their work in these challenging times. You can go to the next page, please. So to fully and further analyze the results, we of course ask demographic information as well, and this sits at the end of the questionnaire. So we ask what gender people are, what age they are, what their education level is, in which region they live, what their employment situation is, are they working, and if so, are they working full-time, part-time? We want to know in which sector they work, and we use a very good, quite detailed sector level question to really determine that and to ensure comparison across markets where that is interesting. And we ask what their function level is. Are they at entry level, or are they a director, or anything in between? And this information allows us to do further deep dives into the data and really come up with some very interesting insights that are relevant for all of us. So this was my explanation about the study and how it works, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Nan. Actually, I'm really, once again, very happy that we will have really valuable and independent research in Lithuania. And I think it's very important for all business in Lithuania, including our clients, potential clients, competitors, and of course, us as HR company, because we have to understand why we are losing our employees, why it's difficult to attract some candidates, etc. But now we have the end of our event, and I would like to thank you for our guests, all of our guests, for their time providing valuable information and insights. And I hope that our viewers found this information interesting, and we are hoping to see all of you again next year in the event for Randstad Employer Brand Research to represent in Lithuania. And I would like to remind you that we have joining this global research next year. Event will be placed in Vilnius, and we already have date 12th of May 2022. So of course we will invite the main business players to this event. Thank you for your attention, and goodbye.